Peacemaker Season 1 is written and directed by James Gunn. He directed 5 of the episodes, but he wrote all of them. He wrote them during lockdown because he was bored. He never thought the series would be made, but it was produced. And it's actually really amazing, to be honest. I didn't think it would live up to the hype. Brought it from the library. This takes place immediately after the events of the Suicide Squad. 5 months later, Christopher Smith wakes up and he's released from the hospital, so he thinks he's free and clear. He doesn't have much of a amazing life, to be honest, though. We don't really get any of the sort of details of his time before Suicide Squad, so the first couple episodes are kind of rocky because they don't give you flashbacks too much or anything or explanation. But apparently he's not a very good guy, and he's a bit of a sad sack with a lot of trauma. He was, he was indoctrinated by his white supremacist father, Augie Smith, and then he's got a violent BFF in Vigilante, who's like another version. We've seen Vigilante in Arrow if you've watched that show, but this is a more unhinged version, sort of like a kid brother type. However, Christopher's newfound freedom is taken down by Clemson Mern, a person with a really bad history who's trying to reform, now working for Amanda Waller. He is leading a new task force to take on Project Butterfly, which is explained later in the show. But he's got a new handler with Harcourt. She's like this tough as nails blonde lady. Then there's also the rookie Leota, who's connected to Waller. And then we've got Economos, John Economos. We've seen him in Suicide Squad. So they become a sort of team. However, the first couple episodes is a little rocky because the show kind of seems low budget, and you're trying to figure out why, like what's the point of the show. But it keeps its cards close to his chest. It doesn't give you the first plot details until about maybe 2 or 3 episodes to get into it, and you really it's a little hard because you're basically catching up on a lot of stuff. Even if you've seen the Suicide Squad and the show, you're not really given like the details of Christopher's traumatic past till way later. So he's obviously got a lot of trauma and sort of and he's indoctrinated by his father, but he's got to like fight that, and he wants to because of the events of the Suicide Squad. He realizes he's not the good guy that he thinks he is, and he realizes that all the terrible things that have happened to him, like his prison sentence, is because he's not a very good person. He's trying to be a better man. So at one point of this series is that John Cena is giving a great performance as someone trying to sort of find redemption, but he's also like a really immature conspiracy theory loving redneck nut sort of. So he's like at odds. You don't really get that in the Suicide Squad because he's only one of the small characters in that movie. But this is like an expansion, so you have to have a little patience at the beginning because you don't get any hardcore violence till later. But the character buildup is worth it. This feels just like one long mini-series. Definitely not something you watch one episode a week. You want to watch it all in one go. It's meant to be one long continuous story, but it also has really great arcs for all the different characters, even though it's a little bit slow. The standout for me is Vigilante. He's really unhinged. But sometimes the jokes don't land. Sometimes the jokes just really don't work at all. And sometimes characters are there to play it straight, but sometimes they're not. And sometimes there's too many goofy characters. It almost feels like the series sometimes is trying too hard, but it still has a really great black comedic angle. Really great soundtrack. Obviously, James Gunn, if you've seen any of his Guardians of the Galaxy movies, the soundtrack definitely adds a level of flair to it. But also, some characters are into music. That's how they bond with each other. Action's pretty great. They introduce minor villains here and there. James Gunn always is able to write really good villains, to be honest. So there's a couple of antagonists in this series, some good fights and action bits. It's violent, it doesn't hold back, it's really deranged sometimes. The plot's really cool, very comic booky, I really liked. But overall, it's a very satisfying comic book show. It definitely sort of pushes the boundary in the same way that Logan did for X-Men films. This one's like, it does not hold back with the swearing and the violence and stuff like that. So it sort of gets to, push off the dust of what a superhero or comic book show can be, or movie can be. So I really like that, and I really enjoyed Peacemaker. There's going to be a bit of a delay for season 2 because James Gunn is now the creative head of the new DC stuff, and also he wants to write a Waller miniseries first. So it's worth checking out if you can get it on Crave or HBO Max or just getting the first season. I got mine from the library, but it's definitely a worthy show worth checking out. Even if you're not into like, but try to watch the Suicide Squad first, then watch this. So those are my thoughts on Peacemaker Season 1.